Okay, so I realize I look like a burglar or something, but I really don't care at this point. What I'm doing now is I'm gonna tell you some things, some true stuff. For instance, I'm wearing a mask right now. It's about less than 19 degrees Fahrenheit here. So it's cold. But if I were pulled out of a car by a police officer, they would require that I remove my mask that's keeping me warm for their safety so they can verify my ID, right? That's what they do, right? Yes, it is. Now, is that legal? Is that a lawful request? No, it's not. It is not a lawful request for a cop to ask for your ID. It's not a lawful request for your cop to run your plate. Now, you might be thinking, this is coming from a criminal. This guy's a criminal. Well, let's see what the legal terminology for criminal is. Anybody who breaks the law, the codes, the ordinances, or anything outlined by our government. Now, here's the interesting thing. That's not what law means. Law dictates there be an injured party, somebody you wronged. That's why cops are there, is to help the people you've wronged and bring you to justice if you're a criminal. But now, they don't bring people to justice for hurting others, they bring them to justice for breaking their laws. Now, for instance, this road that I'm on is a public roadway, right? You can see it. I'm out in the open. This is a road, a public road. Do I pay for it? Yes, I do. I pay gas tax in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that supports building and maintaining these roads. So do I have a legal right to travel on them unmolested under the Fourth Amendment? And do I have a right to privacy and not to self-incriminate myself under the Fifth Amendment? Yes, I do. Fourth and Fifth Amendment guarantees me the right, and the preamble of the Constitution, to travel about unmolested. What does that mean? That means that if a cop flicks on his lights to pull you over, and there is not an injured party for him to pull you over for, he is stopping you illegally. He is impeding your freedom of motion. He is violating, or she is violating, your rights. You have a right to travel on these roads. There is no way to deny this. That's what makes America free. You don't need a license, you don't need insurance, you don't need registration. What you need is a sworn affidavit of truth saying that you will make retribution for any crime you may commit against the people, their right of life, or of property. In other words, the common law isn't there to protect the cops, it's not there to protect the corporations, it's not there to protect the government, it's there to protect us and our rights. So, with that understanding in mind, you realize that the laws we have are not actually laws, but they're more of recommendations that you have to consent to. There is no voluntary. Hold on. That's better. I want my glasses not to fog up. Now you can see my face. It's not that windy, so I should be fine. But the laws are not there to protect you. They're there to protect the politicians. The laws we think of as the codes and ordinances and all these other things, they're there to protect the corporations, the entities of which our privileges are derived. But we don't have privileges. We as Americans have unalienable rights. Our rights to firearms is one, and it's constantly violated. Anytime you need a concealed carry permit to carry what's lawfully already yours and guaranteed you under the Second Amendment is a violation of your constitutional right. People will argue, well then anybody can conceal carry a gun. Anybody can do that now. I mean, the law is not going to prevent criminals from concealed carry, and it's only going to prevent people like me who have to obey the law to do what I know is already right. I'm not an obedient dog. I'm not going to do what I'm told just because I'm told to. I'm going to do what's right. And here's what I think is right. I think it's right to not pay attention, listen to, or accept any law unless it violates somebody's life, their property, or their liberty. In other words, the only laws I think I should be brought against in a charge or pulled over for are vandalism, vandalizing somebody's property on accident or on purpose because of negligence or because of inept driving. And I'm a good driver, so I'm not worried about that. The next thing, obviously, is assault, burglary, vandalism, like I already mentioned, rape, manslaughter, and murder. Those are the crimes as I see them. Those are the only crimes in the United States and the only ones that you should prosecute anybody for. because anything other than those crimes is revenue generation for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and by extension, the Federal Corporation of the United States. It is important to remember that the Act of 1871 did not grant freedom or extra liberties. The Act of 1871 turned the United States of America into a corporation. And under a corporate rule, every state and commonwealth therein became franchises of that government. In other words, just like Burger King, when you are a franchise, you do not get extra rights, you do not get freedom from Burger King. You have to follow their rules, follow their ways, and if you don't, you get in trouble. That's how our states are run. The federal government tells the state what to do. If the state doesn't do it, they get in trouble with the Fed. But the Constitution is the exact opposite. It goes people, local government, state, federal, president. People being at the top. Us, me, you. Hell, everybody. Liberals, Democrats, Republicans. Holy shit, no! Sorry, it got a little windy right there and it blew off my camera case, so. Anyway, we're free people. Now, if we don't fight for our freedoms in the courtrooms against police and everybody who would jeopardize these freedoms, then we aren't worthy to call ourselves Americans. But that's beside the point, because when you call yourself an American citizen, you're accepting and reiterating the unconstitutional, illegal corporate contract that you have been forced to sign. You see, when you get your social security number, you are not getting anything that's going to benefit you. Roland, Roscoe, calm down. You are actually getting your slave title. For instance, my name's Robert H. Eastman. On my social security card, that's what it says. But it does not say Robert H. Eastman as a commonplace name that I would write on a test in school, or as I sign my signature. It says Robert, all uppercase, H uppercase, and Eastman uppercase. All of it. Social security card is that way. Your driver's license is that way. Your concealed carry permit's that way. Every government document I've ever received has been all capital letters. Now what does that mean? It means it denotes me as property. I am not Robert Eastman standing here before you as far as the police would be concerned. I am Robert H. Eastman under the license or ID that I was issued from the Commonwealth. That is the person the law applies to. Now, I gave implied consent when I was born and totally unaware of how the world worked because my parents got me onto the Social Security. That's slavery. Emancipation wasn't freeing black people and white people in the North. It was changing their slave status from of a person to of a corporation, of the government. So are we free? No. We are property of the government, and we exchange our citizenship for rights, which are actually privileges granted to us by the state. When you start to understand this, you realize we're not living in a perfect freedom utopia full of liberty and prosperity. We're living in a dictatorship. We live in a dictatorship. Yes, that's right. A oligarchical dictatorship. The corporate military industrial complex, yada yada, etc., etc. Cops are not there to defend you. And I have the Supreme Court that backs me up on that fact. They're not there to protect you. They're there to protect themselves because they have a right to, and I agree with that. That's why cops do not get called to protect you. They get called to solve the crimes after. Somebody breaks into your house. They don't want you to defend yourself. They want you to call the cops to go find them. But at the same time, they'll pull you over on the roads for going 10 over the speed limit and give you a ticket. There is no victim. There is no fileable cause of action for such a transgression or a crime. It is simply revenue generation for the state. And people will say, well, how do you keep the road safe? How do you keep people from speeding? You can't. They're going to do it anyway. People die all the time. And the answer is not giving police more control, giving the DMV more control, or even, I don't know, giving Google more control of driving your car, because that's just silly. The answer is to stand up and say it's my right to drive. It's my right to move about unmolested. If I can own this car, put gas in this car, then I am good to drive as a sovereign citizen. Not a citizen of the United States, a citizen of natural and common law. In other words, I don't see these laws as applying to me. I'm not saying I'm unlawful. I'm saying these laws are unconstitutional, immoral, unjust, and just plain wrong. Now, I could point out example after example, based on the simple adage, no victim, no crime. So let's explore some laws. Driving without a license. Is there a victim? The state? No, the state cannot be a victim. Is there a crime? No. Insurance? No, there's not a crime because there's no victim. People argue, well, how are you supposed to take care of the other guy in the crash? If you know that if you crash, you're going to be fully 100% responsible for paying the damages, are you going to drive safe or are you going to drive reckless? Now, another thing to remember is cops are not there to predict crime. You cannot have a cop tell you you can't stand on a bridge and wave to passing cars as Santa Claus because you might cause a wreck. I'm sorry, officer, but you don't know the future, and you're not allowed to pre-crime anybody. You can't come in here and say, well, based on what might happen, I could give you a ticket. No, because you have to prove that actually happened in court. Cops go way outside the bounds of what's constitutional and legal just because they have the extra rights, or they think they do, to do so. Here's another good tip. Never stay in your car. The cop has a legal right under the Supreme Court justice, however wrong and unconstitutional it may be, to tell you to get out of your car for their safety. In other words, they have a right to tell you to get out of your private property and further violate your Fourth Amendment right just so they can feel safe. It's not your job as a citizen to make sure a cop feels safe. It's his job to make sure you feel safe. That's extracting you without your permission and without a warrant for you out of your car is unconstitutional and illegal. Sorry, unlawful. There's a difference. Now, when a cop pulls you out of a car, that sucks. But what do? You remember that next time you get out of the car first. A cop can't tell you to get back in. He can tell you because it's his freedom of speech, but he has no lawful authority to do so. Now, what else does that do? It takes almost all the authority from the cop and gives it to you. Because the cop's coming up to your car thinking, well, if he gives me a hard time, I can intimidate this kid by telling him to get out of his car. Well, sorry, officer, I'm already out of my car. Well, get back in it. No, sir, I feel more comfortable out here. Would you like my affidavit of truth stating that I am a legal sovereign and that I have the right to self-govern and I am exempt from your unconstitutional, illegal, and immoral unlawful and immoral laws? I mean, think about it. The cop's power is derived from you giving it to them. The first off, you pull over. Now, if you don't pull over, a cop will call his buddies, and they'll chase you down. And if you don't comply, they'll either beat you, tase you, or harass you until you do. And if that doesn't work, they'll kill you. That's not freedom. That's tyranny. That's a police state. Now, another thing we need to remember is that the Second Amendment guarantees us the right to carry. You see this? This is a Taurus. This is a handgun. It's a gun. Yes, it's a gun, and I carry it everywhere I go with me. Everywhere. You see, if I get caught with it in some places, it's a 5-year felony, like when I go to get my mail. I'm not allowed to carry a gun in the post office. I'm sorry, but that doesn't apply to me because the Constitution doesn't have geographical limits on it. It is unalienable, unquestionable under the Commonwealth to bear arms. It does not say concealed or open. It says to bear them on your person, with you, in your home, in your car, wherever you go. So we need to stop pretending that cops have any kind of authority to tell us what to do. This dispatcher doesn't have authority to tell us what to do because we are the sovereign citizenry. Sorry, we are the sovereigns. Citizen and sovereign cannot be combined. That's another legal baffle over there. So, sovereignty. You are sovereign as a citizen. In other words, you have rights, unalienable, unquestionable, undeniable rights. And if you don't stand up for them, you lose them. Right now I'm practicing my freedom of speech. If I did this in front of a police station, I might actually get arrested for disturbing the peace, brandishing a weapon, and a bunch of other stuff. But as you can see, my gun didn't go off because I know how to handle my firearm. Yes, it is loaded, but the safety is on. Not to mention, as you saw, I kept my finger off the actual trigger. By off, I mean not like this on the trigger, but just by the trigger. As long as your finger's not on the trigger, and that's a really heavy trigger too, it's got double safety on it, so you have to press all the way and then press a little bit further. Like I said, the safety's on, so if the hammer fell, it would be blocked and couldn't fire the round. That comes from responsible gun ownership and knowing my guns. That's what citizenry, or being a true sovereign person, is about. Not just bowing whenever authority tells you what to do, but actually standing up for your rights when you know it's the right thing to do. Don't cower in fear when a cop tells you what to do. Stand up to the cop. Remind him, you serve me, officer. I do not serve you. I am not your servant. This is not Nazi Germany. We are people and we have unalienable rights, and yours are infringed just as much as mine are. But what are we doing about it? Without your help, I can't do anything, and without my help, you can't do anything, because we're in this together. And another thing, to the neighbor I cussed out earlier this week, I'm sorry. I was way overboard. I got angry with you, and I was furious, because I shouldn't have to fight with my neighbors, especially over trivial matters, such as these two dogs who you see running in the background. Yeah, these two dogs, which have never hurt anybody, but for some reason, I'm getting yelled at for them. Don't ask me why. This one over here, Roland, come here. Up, come on, can you get up? Up, come on, up. Yeah, I don't know if you actually saw him, but he went to puppy school. Yeah, puppy school. He's actually certified by a puppy school as trained. Yay. So, that dog has been trained off this dog. They're both great dogs, and I got bitched at by a neighbor. I don't want to have to fight with my neighbors, because there's tyranny advancing on our every right and taking it away. And the New World Order, yes, I said New World Order, just like George W. Bush said, just like Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, and George Soros, and freaking David Rockefeller, all these people. Oh, New World Order, we need a New World Order. And then people are actually saying we need a complete disarmament of all nations through an internationally accepted authority. There should not be an internationally accepted authority. Sovereignty is not just about individual sovereignty, it's about national sovereignty. Our country is sovereign in that it does not answer to a conglomerate of the world, it answers to the people of the United States. Now, if you want to disarm our government, you have to convince the people. Just like you should not want GMO labeling laws passed, because that's just stupid. I hate GMOs. I don't want them in my food supply. I don't want them anywhere. They're dangerous. They cause infertility and disease. But Monsanto doesn't care, because they've bought and paid for a Supreme Court justice to hand ruling after ruling down to them saying, it's fine. GMOs are safe. Give it to your kids at McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's. It doesn't matter. Just because their kids won't be able to have kids doesn't mean you still can't. But I'm not saying we need to pass a law, because I know that's just asinine. That's not what we're about. We should be about individual action. In other words, I will call every company that I eat from, like Millville cereals or Frosted Flakes, whatever, and call them and say, do you use GMO? Well, I don't know. Let me talk to the supervisor. Keep going up the chain of command. And when you get somebody and they actually say, well, no, we don't use GMO, or yes, we do use GMO, you either post that to your Facebook, their response, and tell people to support them if they don't, or call them and yell at them if they do. That's how you affect change. You do it through sovereign action. You take action. You go every day after work with a megaphone and bullhorn Walmart for whatever you're pissed off at them about every day until you get what you want, and you don't give up. That's what being free is about. Not giving up for your rights. Not giving up in the face of tyranny. Not giving up in the face of police. And as a sovereign person myself, we're not dangerous. We carry guns because it's our right to defend ourselves. But we know that cops are told that it's their right to enforce the law. We understand there's a conflict of interest. Until more people do what I'm doing and do what others are doing out there and exercise the right to sovereignty, to individual self-governance, then nothing will change. But we the people can affect a change. I saw it in Mr. D's in Ohio. The GMOproject.org, a foundation, I guess, founded by the people. It wasn't government, it wasn't a law that was passed, but it was the people that certified this product as non-GMO through the company and with their help. Because the company knew it was a selling point. Hey, our almond milk, Silk's almond milk, is non-GMO certified. That's a big selling point, and we bought some because it's non-GMO. That's how you affect change. And let's go on to some other things, like the fact that we don't know if our planet's about to do the whole Earth changes thing, but we do know that something's happened to planet Earth. The moon's freaking out, the sun's freaking out, Earth is freaking out, we're getting volcanic eruptions, Yellowstone keeps growing. This planet is a powder keg waiting to go. But the question is our government doing more to hurt it or to stop it? Because I don't know. With the chemtrails in the sky, and yes, they're called chemtrails. There's two types, chemtrail and contrail. Contrail is moisture. It happens to be a heat differential between the upper atmosphere that planes fly at around 35,000 feet and the surrounding temperature. Those jet engines create friction, they create heat, the heat comes out, and a couple meters behind the aircraft, you see condensation form. You see it form for a few hundred meters and then it begins to dissipate as the plane moves across the sky. You see it all the time. Chemtrails, on the other hand, you can zoom in on the plane and actually see it coming out of the engine turbines. Now, if you want to say that's a conspiracy theory, that's fine. That's your opinion. But here's the question. It's 19 degrees out. Do you see the trail that I left coming down this road in my car when the heat differential and condensation created? Do you? Do you see the white smoke and stuff? Because I don't. That's my point. The condensation theory that it's all condensation, it's nothing to worry about. The government's not doing geoengineering. It's just been disproven, because if the same laws of physics apply to planes up there, then they should apply to cars, trucks, SUVs, and motorcycles down here. It's cold out, and I don't see no white trail leading from my house to here. Do you? I mean, even if there was, you'd see it blown around a bit, but there's none. But what I have seen is chemical spray trucks that leave a huge fog behind them. Looks exactly like chemtrails. Spreads out like chemtrails. Don't know if it smells like it because I've never been up there sticking my head out of an airplane. But what I do know is that they're chemtrails, and there's no use arguing about it unless you can prove to me that they happen to cars here on the ground. Chemtrails, we've covered that now. What else is there to know? Oh, the drug war. Oh, I love the drug war. It's a great subject. I took off my marijuana bracelet, but I usually have a Mary Jane hat, Mary Jane bracelet, Mary Jane t-shirt. The hat says Mary Jane, the shirt's a tie-dye pot leaf, and a nice little metal pot leaf on my wrist. I have gone by cops in stores, and they haven't said anything. If they did, you know what I'd say? You really think it makes your job safer to have to fight an illegal, unconstitutional, and immoral drug war? No victim, no crime. Sure, people get hyped up on PCP and kill people, but guess what? They'll do that whether it's lawful or not, because, let's face it, laws don't control criminals. They control law-abiding citizens. So every law that's ever been written to try to stop a criminal from doing something is null and void, because you can't stop a criminal from doing something with the law. It's just common sense, and I would think that it'd be prevalent throughout everybody. I mean, I assume that people watching this will say, well, yeah, that is common sense. Criminals don't get controlled by laws because they're criminals. But unfortunately, that's not the way people think anymore. Now, is there any other subjects I should touch on? I don't actually know. I've covered chemtrails, Monsanto, the government, common law. What else? Oh, guns. A little bit more about guns. Parents, if you're afraid to let your kids know about guns, then there's more chance that they'll hurt themselves with them. It's a simple fact. Me and my grandfather were both trained at a very young age, around 6, 7 years old, on the proper use, handling, and procedures and respect that a gun deserves and how to use it. In other words, we didn't just watch TV, we actually handled the guns, cleaned the guns, learned how to deload and reload and take them apart as children. And you know what that did for us? It taught us respect of those firearms. There's never been an accident in my house, and there's more guns in my house than there is in the police station. So, The simple fact of the matter is, if you want your kids to be safe around guns, you need to teach them guns. You need to have one in the house. You need to teach them how to break it down and put it together. You need to teach them how to fire it. Because having a gun in the safe is not the same thing as having it in your bedside. And if you want your kids to be safe around it, you need to teach them about it. Just like you have to teach them about drugs and sex and everything else. Because if they don't know about it from somebody, then the first person that comes along can fill their heads with whatever lies they want. Whether it's the government propaganda or a drug dealer trying to sell your kid pot. If you tell your kid that pot makes your head explode and you'll get super lazy and all this other stuff, and the pot dealer says, no, none of that's true. Pot's just a relaxing drug that you sit down, you smoke when you want to feel chill. It helps you relax. It can even help with your attention, help you fall asleep, help you get rid of a stomach ache or a headache. Kid's gonna be like, wow, that sounds a lot better than what my mom said. But if mom sat down and said pot is not a bad drug, it's not very lethal, you can smoke a lot of it, but the one thing you got to worry about is some drug dealers in inner cities will lace it with other drugs that get you really addicted to those drugs or to pot. You don't actually get addicted to pot, but you can get addicted to the cocaine that they might lace the pot with. Tell your kids that. Let them know. Don't hold anything back, because kids are brilliant. Two things people underestimate so much in our society are the elderly, which have wisdom, and children, which have creative, imaginative minds and incredible aptitude. In other words, they have an incredible rate of learning. They can learn things at speeds us grown-ups don't even fathom anymore. That's why it's so horrible to see the institution demoralizing and forcing conformity upon your children. Just like vaccines, you see the rise of autism. A few years back, it was what? 1 in 5,000, and now it's 1 in 50 or 1 in 10. Autism has steadily gone up year after year for the past 20 years. Now, am I the only one who realizes that cancer, heart disease, autism, ADHD, and all these other diseases have a root cause? Now, I've been diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Now, they prescribed me Adderall, the chemical equivalent of the crack family, the methamphetamine family. Now, it's okay for a doctor and a school official and a wraparound to recommend this and to have it administered to a kid when I was little in grade school. It's okay to do that, but it's not okay for some kid to get off work and smoke a crack ball in his house, because if he gets busted, he goes to jail for a while, okay? There's a difference there. Our society says legal drugs are okay, illegal drugs are bad. We got drug tests for these, but not for these. I'm sorry, where's the fairness in that? Where's the equal protection under the law? If I smoke pot, I'm not saying I do, but if I did, why do you have a right to test for it and not hydrocodone or codeine or Marinol or Xanax? I mean, you're not testing for those things, or cigarettes or alcohol when you get a job, but you're testing for marijuana? I don't think so. Not to mention the Russiferians, an entire religious organization dedicated around the pot plant. Instead of wine in the Christian church, it's pot they use in their sacraments. That's religious freedom, but do corporations and businesses care about that? No. All they care about is the money. So they're greedy. They don't give jobs to people who do drugs. You know what happens to those people who can't find jobs? They break in your window and steal your shit, so you have to call the cops to go get them. See how that works? Problem, reaction, solution. They created the drug war, which created violence, and now the cops have to get meaner and meaner to deal with that violence that they created in the first place. It's utter insanity. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to. Our country is not about freedom anymore. It's a tyrannical government hell-bent on the complete control of us, the citizenry. You cannot kiss in public. That's illegal. You cannot drive 5 over the speed limit. That's illegal. You cannot park facing the wrong way down the street. That's illegal. Oh my goodness. What isn't illegal? Wait a minute. I'm serious now. I don't know what isn't illegal. See my dogs over there running in a field where there's no people? That's illegal. See my car parked in the middle of the street that nobody uses at this time of night? That's illegal. But is any of this unlawful? No. Is there a victim my dogs are hurting right now? No. Is there a victim that can't get past this car right now? No. Now, if I smoked a doobie right now, would that be illegal? Yes. Would it be unlawful? I don't see a victim. Do you? No, it's not. What I'm saying is very simple. Freedoms have to be protected. They have to be fought for. If we're not willing to do that, then what did those people 200 years ago who gave their life for this accomplish? Nothing. And we have made it worse. That's all I'm saying. Roscoe. Roscoe. Oh, how long did that run? 29 minutes. Holy shit.